former and current mayors and governors and senators and police commissioners and the Democratic and Republican nominees for president. But Hillary Clinton left well before the others, some 3 hours before the event was scheduled to end, and at least an hour before she was expected to leave. And the reason, as we first reported this morning, was a medical episode. As one witness who was in very close proximity to the former senator told me, she appeared to faint. This video shows Hillary Clinton standing on a sidewalk outside the World Trade Center site as her van pulls up on West Street. She's leaving the 9/11 ceremony at Ground Zero unexpectedly early. She appears unsteady as she steps off the curb, with aides and her protective detail holding her by the arms. And she stumbles again as she gets close to the van, with one of her shoes falling off before she's helped inside. A law enforcement source who was 15 feet away from the Democratic nominee says they were caught off guard by her premature departure, which is why Mrs. Clinton had to wait for her motorcade to pull up. He says he saw her knees buckle and watched as someone picked up her shoe and gave it to agents in one of the 2 vehicles that followed the former First Lady to her daughter Chelsea's apartment, roughly 3 miles away. 90 minutes later, her campaign released a statement saying Mrs. Clinton left because she felt overheated, but was feeling much better. And just before noon, she emerged from her daughter's building, smiling and making brief remarks. 82 degrees at 9 o'clock this morning. There was a nice breeze blowing. Humidity was at just 31%. It was a beautiful September morning, not the kind of day that you would expect someone to overheat. Brett?
Rick Leventhal, live in Manhattan. Rick, thanks. We're being told by the Clinton campaign tonight that Hillary Clinton was diagnosed with pneumonia 2 days before today's episode at Ground Zero. And now there is a decision about Secretary Clinton's upcoming schedule this week. Fox News correspondent Jennifer Griffin is with the Clinton campaign in New York tonight at Chappaqua. Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, Brett. Campaign aides were expecting an October surprise, but not one in September. Clinton's doctor says that she diagnosed her with pneumonia on Friday. Today, Dr. Lisa Bardock, said that she examined her again when she returned home. Here's the statement just released by Clinton's doctor. Quote, she was put
than the basket full of deplorables comment, which will play to Trump's base as a motivator. But for people who aren't sure, it's a red flag video that's tough to watch. I think that's what probably sticks.
It is tough to watch, JP, and we should point out that, listen, the trials of a campaign, 18 months long or longer, are tough. But she was diagnosed, apparently, with pneumonia on Friday. And on Friday, she ran the 2-hour national security meeting. She held a press conference. She sat for a CNN pre-tape interview, appeared at 2 fundraisers, including the one where she said the deplorables comment, and today stood at the 9/11 memorial.
I think she has the constitution of a wild boar, and I'm pretty impressed. But that said, she can't stop lying. It always comes from the top. If her team asked her on Friday, should we just, say that you have pneumonia and get it out there? Are you feeling well? I'm sure the answer was no. I'm sure it was her choice to hide it. She wants to soldier on. She obviously doesn't want to stop campaigning or fundraising. But when she collapses, nearly collapses, and she would have collapsed if she wasn't held up, and then has to pretend.
No, she fell, my dear. Look at that damn video. Her shoes fell off her feet.
Days ago, it looks like she's never going to tell the truth.
Both of these things, the deplorables comment and the treatment of this, fit into this narrative that, and I hate the word narrative, but it just fits into that Hillary Clinton kind of the Clinton campaign keeping reporters and the public in the dark.
And reporters happily going along with it. First, let me just say, to AB's point, it's nuts that they let her keep a schedule like that. Pneumonia at that age, at any age, it's one of the leading killers of people over 65. Over 50,000 people died last year. Like, you would not let a loved one keep a schedule like that with pneumonia. They should have told the truth. People get it. She could have gotten past it. But the press reaction, let's be honest here, Drudge got it right. The New York Times got it wrong. The Washington Post was openly attacking people who bothered to ask questions about her health.
To that point, Chris Cillizza writes today, coughing, I wrote, is simply not evidence enough of any sort of major illness that Clinton is assumed to be hiding. Neither, of course, is feeling overheated. But those two things happening within 6 days of each other to a candidate who's 68 years old makes talk of Clinton's health no longer just the stuff of conspiracy theorists.
But it never was just the stuff
but that's the thing.
See, that's what's so infuriating. There were physicians, non-aligned physicians, saying, I'm not against Hillary, but what is this about? By the way, whenever you hear a journalist discouraging inquiry, you're not listening to a journalist, you're listening to an advocate. And that was almost uniformly the response from the press. Stop, you're helping Trump. Be quiet. They're not journalists anymore when they say that.
There are calls now for both candidates, Lisa, to put forward detailed medical records. Donald Trump's going on with Dr. Oz this week. I don't know how detailed he's going to get with Dr. Oz, but he's going on there. President Obama's former doctor says both candidates should put forward detailed medical records.
Well, and if Donald Trump released his medical records, that would certainly up the ante on Hillary Clinton. I know you don't like this word, Brett, but the narrative is the problem for Hillary Clinton, because the problem is there's multiple things now to point to if you're the Donald Trump campaign, whether it's what appears like in the FBI notes, her talking about the concussion and then mentioning that she could not recall specific things from briefings, whether it's the coughing fit, whether it's the fact that we know that she has fallen before and gotten concussions. So this all becomes a part of the narrative, and whether it's real or not, the optics don't look good for her. The second problem for Hillary Clinton is the fact that she is now starting another political week on the defense. What happens with her not attending events, the juxtaposition between Donald Trump hitting the campaign trail aggressively and her not being out there is not going to look good for Hillary Clinton. That's going to continue to feed this narrative about her health.
You got it in 3 times.
It looked like they drug Hillary. Sorry about that. It looked like they drug Hillary Clinton as drug her into the van.
Said this back in the 2012 campaign, and now there are comparisons.
There are 47% of the people who vote for the president. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are